Welcome to the Jumpstart Guide to Becoming a Better Photographer. Over the next 60 minutes, we'll show you how to get the most out of your digital camera. We'll look at the features of your camera, we'll show you its buttons and settings, and we'll show you some software and accessories you might want to add to your camera bag. Today's digital compact cameras make taking pictures easy, but to get the most out of your camera, you'll want to know how your camera works and how to take pictures that are moving images you'll cherish forever. We'll show you everything you need to know. We'll look at Chapter 1, a tour of digital cameras. We'll cover the typical buttons and controls on today's digital cameras and take the mystery out of them. Chapter 2, megapixels, RAW or JPEG files, and quality settings. In this chapter, we'll look at the differences between the various megapixel settings, why select the lower setting, and the benefits of shooting at the highest settings. Then we'll show you how a RAW file benefits your picture taking and how to use the JPEG setting to your advantage. Chapter 3, selecting the right ISO. What is ISO and what do the various settings look like? Chapter 4, menus, menus, menus. While every camera is a little different, we'll show you the most typical menu settings and how to use them to make your picture taking easier and a lot more fun. Chapter 5, selecting the right shooting or photo mode. What do all the various settings do and how to use them to improve your photography? Chapter 6, taking better pictures. In this chapter, we'll look at things like composition and depth of field. We'll also look at using focus to achieve better images. We'll cover using your camera's built-in flash to improve your photos. Chapter 7, printing and archiving. We'll show you how to edit your photos and get them ready to print. Then, we'll show you how to archive your photos to store them long-term, and show you how to get your pictures back to your photo finisher for printing. Chapter 8, lenses, filters, and accessories. In Chapter 8, we'll look at some of the accessories you might want to add to your camera bag, from lenses for a digital SLR and compact digital cameras, to interesting innovations that can make a difference. We'll show you the latest and the greatest gadgets. So, get your camera in your hands and let's get started. Chapter 1, a digital camera tour. Let's take a quick look at a typical digital camera. Whether you have a state-of-the-art digital single-lens reflex camera or DSLR, or one of the compact digital cameras, there are some features that are in common. No matter which camera you have, you'll always have an on-off switch. You'll turn on your camera with this switch, but sometimes it can also act as the switch between the playback and the shooting mode switch, as on this Canon digital camera. Some cameras automatically turn off if the camera is not used for a set period of time, which you can usually determine in one of the camera's menus. If it does not turn off, simply press the on-off button a second time and you'll shut your camera off. Remember, you'll save battery life if you turn the camera off when you're not using it. Next is the shutter release button, which, when pressed, will take a picture, or begin the process of recording a video if your camera has that feature. This is also the primary method of locking your focus point and your exposure. When you press the button, the camera will lock the focus on whatever is under the focus point of the camera. Take a look at this example. We're pointing our camera at our still life scene, and we'll press the shutter button and hold it halfway. Notice the focus point in the middle of the camera glows and shows us the focus point, and the camera focuses on the subject behind your focus point. Now we'll move the camera around the scene to better compose our shot. The focus remains locked on the original point we focused on. Most digital SLRs will have multiple focus points that you can choose from by using the rear selector button. This allows you to choose an alternate focus point, one that might not be in the center. Here's a selection of the way that looks on the back of an LCD camera on a few of our different cameras. Experiment with it and use it as a tool to help you get better pictures. Remember, the same is true for the exposure for cameras that have spot metering. Pressing and holding the shutter release will also fix your exposure at that point. The exposure can be seen on your viewfinder when you enable the display to show you everything. Once again, here's an example. Here's our scene again, and we'll press and hold the shutter button halfway. Our focus locks, and of course our exposure also locks. Then we can recompose our shot to take the picture. The difference can be very dramatic. Here are two shots that prove a dramatic difference. In the case of the properly exposed portrait of our model, we focused on her and also locked the exposure before changing our composition. The other one had the focus and exposure of the background, which was brighter and made the model's face darker and out of focus. All digital cameras will have a menu button. When you press it, it'll display the camera's menu system. We've done a lot of DVDs on different digital cameras, and one of the cameras had over 100 menus. Most cameras will have a few menus to allow you to make some changes to the camera. We're going to go over typical menu items in Chapter 4. To turn the menu off, press the menu button again, or in most cases, press the shutter release button lightly. Another common button is the playback button. Here are 4 different examples of what that button can be. Everything from a mode switch or selector to this nice little chrome bar. Pressing this button will display whatever is on your camera's memory card, usually beginning with the last picture you took. You can scroll backwards or forwards using a multifunction button, or in the case of this Sony, you'll use the arrows on the touchscreen LCD. It's just as easy to delete a photo from your memory card. Most cameras use a garbage can symbol to symbolize deleting an image. Once again, here's how it looks on a variety of cameras. To delete an image, simply press the button when you are in playback mode. You'll be asked to confirm your decision, usually by pressing the Set button, or sometimes you can press the garbage can button again, and then the image is gone. Now, we don't like deleting in the field because no matter how large the LCD screen is on your camera, you'll never really know what you want to keep or what you really want to delete. So we recommend you save deleting until you get back in your own home. Now, if you know the shot is really bad, like this one for example, that's just a big pile of blur, then you can delete it. But save deleting until you get home. All cameras will have a zoom control. The zoom control allows you to zoom into a portion of the scene that you're taking a picture of, like this. We'll talk about composition and how to best use your zoom just a little later on in the DVD. All of today's cameras have a mode selection dial. This allows you to select from a number of program and digital modes when you take your pictures. Many cameras will also have an auto mode, typically shown in green on this dial. It means the camera will select everything for you: ISO, white balance, megapixels, you name it. We'll show you how not to use this mode throughout this DVD, because we strongly recommend you use one of the other modes like the P or program mode, because you'll get the most success with this mode. Make sure you check out this chapter. Many cameras have a feature called anti-shake, and you'll see something like this on the camera to turn the feature on or off. Camera shake is an interesting feature. It can assist you in getting a sharp picture when you're shooting in low light. Essentially, what it does is enable an electronic feature in your camera, which can be caused when you're holding the camera and pressing the shutter release button, even gently. Even the most steady person will move a little. The key here is the word little. The feature won't compensate for the camera moving wildly about. An example would be if you're on a boat on a rough sea and you're trying to take a picture, or you're in your car on a bumpy road. It's designed to compensate for a little shake, not a lot. The other thing about this feature is you need to know when to use it and when not to. Anti-shake technology, when it's turned on, assumes there will be some motion, so it looks for some. If you have it turned on when the camera is on a steady surface, like perhaps a tripod or maybe even a table, it'll actually introduce a little motion into the shot, and you'll have a blurry picture. So use it when it's appropriate, and keep it turned off when you're using a tripod or another steady surface for your camera. Here's an example of an image. One was taken with anti-shake turned on, and one without it. Your camera may have more buttons and switches, but we just wanted to cover the basics in this chapter. In future chapters, you'll learn more about the settings and controls. Megapixels, RAW or JPEG files, and quality settings. When digital cameras first came out, memory cards were small, as little as 4 megabytes, and they were very expensive. I think I paid over $100 for this card. So many digital cameras were only used for computer display or in a slideshow on television sets. At the same time, Most early digital cameras allowed you to only record in JPEG. Many cameras now offer the option of recording your pictures in something called Camera Raw format. This format, when combined with image editing software like Photoshop Elements or Photoshop CS2, allows you to edit your camera's settings after you take the picture. I'll show you what I mean. I'm opening a RAW file from a memory card of some pictures of a still life in my studio. We used a flash to light this little scene. The camera's white balance was set to automatic, which wasn't exactly perfect for the colors in the scene or the lighting coming from the flash. But because I shot this and recorded this in the RAW format, I can alter the white balance in this file, and you'll see how it changes the color in the image. I can also adjust things like the exposure, or change the amount of sharpness, alter the contrast, and, well, basically this whole list. These changes allow me to, in essence, fix mistakes I made when I took the picture. A JPEG file would not allow me to make these changes after the fact. A RAW file will be much larger than a JPEG file, but I feel the ability to make these changes might be worth spending a little more money on a larger memory card. Today, you can get a lot of storage on a memory card for the same amount of money as you would have spent on just a few rolls of film and processing a few years ago. At the same time, the quality of digital cameras continues to rise, while their price continues to drop. So today's photographers have the option to take really high-quality images, and a lot of them on a single memory card. Let's take a look at megapixels. No matter what camera you have, it has a certain megapixel rating. From as low as 1.3 megapixels to the highest 16 megapixel cameras, there are some things you need to know. Lower megapixel cameras produce great results, just as great as the higher megapixel cameras, but it all depends on what you want to do with the images. Lower megapixel cameras will produce very nice looking images when you use them on your computer or television. And you can produce great looking sharp images when you print standard 4x6 inch prints. So why spend all the money on a camera with a higher megapixel rating? Well, let's take a look at an example. The image on the right was taken with a 2.1 megapixel camera, while the image on the left was taken with a 12 megapixel camera. At this standard size, there's very little difference in the image quality. There'll be a difference if you're trying to blow up the smaller image or print just a portion of the photograph. Here are our two images side by side, but this time we've zoomed in to only a part of the picture. The 2.1 megapixel image is considerably more pixelated, while the 12 megapixel image is still sharp and clear. The other factor to consider, and most cameras offer the option, is to choose what size your image is recorded at and how much file compression is used. Let's take a look at both situations. Choosing a smaller size image will create a smaller file size on your memory card and later on your computer. This means you'll be able to store more pictures on one memory card. It's a great option if you have limited memory space and you're going to use the photos on the internet or a computer only. Here's an example. The image on the left was taken at the smallest size the camera allows, while the image on the right is the largest image the camera will allow. They both look the same on the screen, and they'll look the same on the internet. Looking below the photo, you'll notice the file size is larger on the image on the right, while the image on the left is a much smaller picture. So, on a typical 1 gigabyte memory card, you'll be able to store approximately 1,000 photos using the camera's smallest file size and the lowest or basic quality setting. While on the highest quality and largest setting, and using the RAW format, the memory card will only hold approximately 42 images. This will be different from camera to camera, of course, because each manufacturer has their own compression settings and file sizes. You can refer to your manual to see what your maximum and minimum number of images are. What we want you to learn from this segment is that you can save memory space and take more pictures quick by using a smaller file type and compression or quality setting. But this is most likely not what you really want. Almost all photographers will want the ability to zoom in or blow up a portion of the image. Maybe not every photograph, but one day, you never know. Also, the lower quality images will not look as good if you print them, which is still the most popular way of sharing your photographs with friends and family. As a basic rule of thumb, use the highest image quality and size for your pictures. If you plan on editing the photos with an image editing program, then select the RAW file format for recording your photos. We recommend you take your pictures at the highest possible quality to allow you the greatest flexibility. Your manual will show you how to change the size and compression or quality of your image. Chapter 3. Choosing the right ISO setting. The next feature we want to talk about are the ISO settings. Like film cameras, your digital camera has different sensitivity settings, and like film, they're called ISO settings. ISO settings can range from as low as about ISO 50 to perhaps ISO 3200 on professional digital SLR cameras. Most compact digital cameras offer ISO ranges between 50 and 800, which will cover you for just about any situation you find yourself in. Let's take a look at when you would use each ISO setting. The lower the ISO number, the less sensitive to light the sensor becomes. As you increase the ISO number, the more sensitive the sensor is to light. So, when you have a lot of available light, say when you're shooting outside on a sunny day, the lower ISO you can use. The darker the situation or room you're shooting in, the higher the ISO you need to use. You see, the more sensitive to light, or the higher ISO you require, the more digital noise you'll see in your pictures. So the key is to keep the ISO as low as you can to minimize the digital noise. To better illustrate what I mean, here's an interesting comparison. Here's the same scene, cropped at 100%, taken at a number of different ISO settings. As we pan across the image, you'll see more noise, or perhaps you might think of it as grain. Today's digital cameras have tremendous software and programming that minimizes noise, and you can even reduce the noise a little bit more in some image editing packages. But trust me, you really want to record your images with the least amount of noise possible. The important thing to notice is the increasing amount of grain or digital noise as the ISO increases. The grainy look or digital noise will be more apparent when you enlarge the image, so we recommend using as low an ISO as you can. Your camera might offer something called Auto ISO. If you choose to use this feature, the camera will select the ISO it thinks is the best for the scene you're photographing. We don't recommend using this feature because it can mean the camera could select the wrong ISO, or you could end up with results you don't want. Instead, we present this simple guide. When you're outside in very bright sunlight, you might select a lower ISO like ISO 50 or perhaps ISO 100. You want to be shooting something that is static and not moving, like a landscape at ISO 50. And even in bright sunshine, you might want to use a tripod. ISO 100 can be used when you're outdoors shooting typical snapshots like the ones on our screen. ISO 200 is great when you want to guarantee you stop the action, and you still have lots of light available to you. These action shots are perfect examples of when to use ISO 200. Finally, ISO 400 should be used when you're shooting indoors and want to use available light, or you need to stop the action. Once again, consult your camera's manual to learn how to change your ISO. Menus, menus, menus. No matter which camera you purchased, you'll have a menu that you can access by pressing the menu button on the back of the camera. While every camera has a different menu system, we'll show you the most typical menu settings and how to use them to make your picture taking easier and a lot more fun. The typical setup menu allows you to determine how your camera is going to operate. So let's take a look at the few of the items you can use. Formatting. We've talked about formatting before, but click down to the Format menu and right-click with the multi-selector or press Enter. Your camera will probably warn you that all images will be deleted. To format the card, click down and press Enter. It's a good idea to do it once you've transferred all the pictures that you have on the card to your computer's hard drive. LCD brightness. Many cameras allow you to alter the brightness of the LCD screen. By right-clicking, you can get to the LCD brightness screen and increase or decrease the brightness of the rear LCD. We recommend you leave the default setting, as it does provide an accurate image on most LCD screens, but if you change it once and stick with it. because if you continue to change it, you'll not be able to judge your exposure as accurately, as your screen will be lighter or darker than your manufacturer intended it to be. Video mode or video out. Your camera most likely came with a cord to allow you to connect the camera to a TV set to give a slideshow. This menu item allows you to determine which format the camera will output when connected to a TV. When you're in North America, we use the NTSC system, but if you're visiting Europe and you want to give an impromptu slideshow, simply select the PAL setting. Date and time. The next setting allows you to set the date and time. Typically, by using a combination of the buttons and control wheels, you can set the date and time, and in some instances, you can adjust it to the world time or even set it for daylight savings time. Your manual will help you out, but basically, every camera's got a date and time setting. Most of today's compact digital cameras and all of the digital SLRs offer a white balance feature. White balance itself means telling the camera exactly what in the picture is white, so the camera can determine all the other colors. The white balance options are auto, which means the camera will determine its own white balance by evaluating the scene. We found this to be pretty accurate under most shooting conditions. Then there are some presets for special lighting situations. Let's go over those. The sun icon, or the daylight icon, is used when you're shooting outdoors under direct sunlight with little or no shade and probably no cloud. If you're shooting outside and it's primarily cloudy, use the cloudy setting. Select fluorescent when you're shooting primarily under fluorescent lighting, such as in an office or a school or perhaps a store. Select incandescent when you're shooting with lights from a normal light bulb. This is the flash setting, and it's best used with the camera's built-in flash or an optional speed light flash system. You'd also choose this setting when you're using a studio flash system. Preset white balance would allow you to select from white balances you used in an earlier photo. For most cameras, to do a white balance, you'd need a white card. Now, not all white cards are the same color, so you can select from a warmer white to a colder white. Place the card in front of your camera under the lighting conditions you plan to use and zoom into the white card so it completely fills your screen. Then take a picture. You can use this stored in your memory card to use the preset value again and again. Check your manual for information on how to do a manual white balance. Before we leave the white balance area altogether, we want to show you how important white balance is. Here's the same photo taken with a selection of white balances. You can clearly see how the white balance changes under each preset. As I said earlier, we've found the automatic setting to be most accurate for most of today's cameras, and we really recommend you shoot using that. If you're using RAW and an image editing program, you can always go back at the end and adjust the white balance. That's kind of one of the coolest things about shooting RAW and working with something like Photoshop Elements. Now let's take a look at shooting modes. No matter what camera you own, chances are there are a number of shooting modes or program modes available to you. Let's take a look at these modes, how to use them, and see some examples of photos taken in these modes. Generally, the first mode is called the auto setting. The auto setting means the camera will make all the decisions for you. It'll select the shutter speed, how fast the shutter opens and closes, the aperture, which is how wide the lens is, and in many cases it will also select the ISO. It might also select whether the flash will fire or not, and other special functions your camera might have. We recommend this setting to people who might be a little intimidated by all the settings. The auto setting will help you get more shots that are in focus and sharp if you aren't comfortable using one of the other modes. But we'll show you how to use those other modes next. The P stands for Program Mode. Program Mode lets the camera determine the shutter speed and the aperture. Program modes have the ability to select what the camera thinks is the optimum setting for the scene you're photographing. Many photographers will shoot most of their shots in program mode. Some program modes have an option called Program Plus, and it allows you to remain in program mode, but you can alter the combination. Making the shutter speed a little faster or a higher number will guarantee you stop fast action. Smaller or a higher number will allow you to change the depth of field. We'll cover depth of field in a few moments. We recommend you use program mode for most of your day-to-day and snapshot shooting. The A stands for Aperture Priority Mode. Some cameras will have an Aperture Priority Mode. This allows you to manually select the aperture or how open the lens is, while the camera will select the appropriate shutter speed automatically for you. You would want to use this mode if you want to increase or decrease the depth of field. Depth of field is the area of your photo that is in sharp focus. When the lens opening is as closed as possible, this is the higher number on the scale, it puts more of your photo in focus. When it's wide open, using the smallest number on the scale, you'll have the smallest area in focus. Here's an example of the same photo taken at 3 different combinations. On the left, you'll notice some of the background is in focus, while the photo on the right has the minimum amount of focus. The center was shot in program mode and is a combination of the two. Experiment with this. You might like the different looks it gives your photograph. On some cameras, aperture mode is called AV mode, by the way. S or shutter priority mode. Like aperture priority, some cameras will have a shutter priority mode. In this case, you might want to increase the shutter speed to stop the action of a moving subject. The larger the number, the faster the shutter speed. Here's an example of a few shots where we've had a fast shutter speed and another when we didn't. Some cameras will call the S or shutter priority mode the TV mode. M or manual mode. Higher end cameras will have a manual mode. This means you can select both the shutter speed and the aperture. You can experiment with this mode if your camera has it. You might create some interesting effects. For the majority of your shooting, we recommend either the program mode or one of your camera's special modes. Let's take a look at those next. All of today's digital cameras come with various photo modes designed to help you capture the perfect moment. The camera makes some adjustments to help you shoot the perfect picture based on the scene type you've selected. It'll adjust the shutter, aperture. Sometimes it'll also adjust the contrast, the color saturation, and sharpness. Almost every camera has a landscape mode. In landscape, the camera will typically increase the saturation on green and blue colors, and it'll add some contrast and sharpen the edges of the outlines. Here's a comparison of a landscape shot in program mode and one in landscape mode. Like landscape, almost every camera will have a portrait mode. In portrait mode, the camera will adjust the shutter and aperture to make the background blurry, while keeping your subject sharp. Many cameras will also have the landscape and portrait modes in a night setting too. If you're planning to use the night mode, you must use a tripod, as the camera will choose a slow shutter speed to capture all of the details of the scene. In this photo, we use the night landscape mode and a tripod. In the night portrait mode, the camera will use the built-in flash, but it'll delay the flash to allow your camera to record some of the lights in the background in a blur or light streak. This can be very creative. Give it a try. Don't leave the camera home on those great evenings out. Many cameras will have a close-up mode. Use this mode when you're shooting close-ups or macro shots, which are extreme close-ups. This will adjust your camera's lens to allow you to get super close. Give it a try. The last popular mode on digital cameras is the panorama mode. In this mode, you can automatically assemble a picture that is wider than your standard lens. What it does, in fact, is allow you to combine multiple shots into one big file. This is a fun mode and great on vacations. There may be others on your camera that we've not covered here. Once again, your manual will help you. We recommend new camera owners keep a copy of their manual with their camera to refer to when shooting on location. Just slip it into your camera bag. Taking better pictures. So now that you know all about the camera's functions, let's take a look at how to improve your photography. We want to show you some basic principles and some tips that we think will make your images a lot better. The first thing to do when you look at the LCD or into the viewfinder is consider what you'd like to photograph. In your mind, though, should be thoughts on how to compose your shot in the most interesting manner. There are huge differences in just shooting a snapshot and composing your shot to make your subject stand out and to touch your viewer. Let's look at some basic techniques. The rule of thirds is one of the most talked about techniques for improving your composition. What the rule of thirds suggests is to divide the image into thirds both horizontally and vertically. So in essence, you're placing a grid over the image in the viewfinder or LCD. Some cameras come with an option to turn on a grid, but you should just learn to do it in your mind. The rule of thirds tells you to place your subject behind one of the intersecting lines. So in this portrait, there are some interesting images you can get. Here she is looking into the picture, while done from the other point of view, she's looking away. At any rate, it beats this one with our subject just standing in the middle. This means we have taken a snapshot and transformed it into a portrait or even a piece of art. Another thing to keep in mind is to use the diagonal to shoot subjects that are smaller. For example, this photo of a flower looks different and much more interesting. The diagonal takes the viewer's eye to your subject. When you're shooting people and animals, it's vitally important to get the focus point correct. People and animals are huge subjects, so where's the right place to focus? Well, the answer is on their eyes. Many will say that the eyes are the windows to the soul, so it's important to focus on the eye. You can achieve this and still use the other two composition tricks we talked about by learning how to lock in your focus and exposure. As we talked about earlier, simply focus your camera on the subject's eye and then press and hold the shutter release button halfway and complete the composition of your photograph using one of the techniques we talked about earlier. While we're on the subject of focus, there are a couple of techniques you can use to improve your photography that involve focus. Depth of field, as we outlined earlier, is the amount of the picture that's in focus. It's altered by changing the opening of the aperture of the lens. When the aperture is closed down, this is the highest number on the scale, more of your scene will be in focus. When the lens is as open as it can be, symbolized by the smallest number on the lens, the very minimum will be in focus. Here's a side-by-side of our still life, and we've shot it at opposite ends of the apertures, and of course the most dramatic focus differences. You can use this in your shooting when you want to use focus to draw the viewer's eye to the right part of the picture. Tip number 1. Improper use of the zoom. Don't rely on the zoom to bring you closer to the subject. Always use your body and feet first. It's better to walk as close to the subject as you can and then use the zoom to bring you in a little closer. Here's an example of what I mean. In this photograph of Las Vegas's New York, New York hotel, the first picture I took is a picture from a distance using the zoom. Notice the wires in the picture. Then I walked as close to the hotel as I could, and using a wider setting of my zoom, I was able to remove the wires from the image, get more detail in the picture, and capture a more pleasing, less confusing image. Tip number 2. Don't stand so far away. Another classic example is a picture of your friends and family in front of a landmark. Many people stand as much as 10 or 20 feet. Heck, I've seen people across the room from the subject they want to take a picture of. People walk in front and all over, and you have these little faces with too much background on display. It's kind of confusing. It's not what you really wanted. It's what you think you wanted. Instead, walk up to your subjects, use the wide-angle part of your zoom, and you'll capture the image you had in your mind rather than a photo that is unrecognizable. Give it a try next time you're taking a picture. Tip number 3. Watch those backgrounds. Here's a shot of our model under a tree. Well, is she under the tree, or is the tree growing out of her head? The point here is to watch the backgrounds of your images. You want to make sure something is not growing out of your subject's head or looks funny there. Also, you can use too much background. If you've taken one of those, you can try and crop it closely. Here's an example. On the right is our original picture. while on the left is a close crop, where you can't really see the tree. The best solution is this one, which has no tree in the background. Position your subjects to have a simple and contrasty background, and your pictures will improve. Tip 4. Headspace. So many people are trying to take a picture of people on vacation, put their face right in the middle of the shot. Here's an example. There's so much headroom, I'll bet you're wondering if these people are really short. Once again, walk up to the people or subject you're photographing. Frame your shot so that the subject's head is in the upper third of the image, then take the picture. Now, doesn't this look better? Tip number 5. Don't look down. Here's a shot that has many of the mistakes we've talked about, but it adds a new one. We're looking down at our subject. Always try and be at the same level as your subject. It makes a much more pleasing photo. Once again, here's our example of the wrong photo, and then the right one. Tip 6. Get on your subject's eye level. This is an important tip when you're shooting family pets and small children or flowers. So many times, photographers will grab the camera and take a picture of Fido or Fluffy from their own high vantage point. You'll bring a lot more intensity to the photo if you change your perspective and get down on their eye level. It'll take a little more practice and more patience with your pets, but it's much easier with flowers and other low objects. When you're shooting children, simply squat down and then compose your shot eye to eye. Keep these tips in mind as you record your family moments this year. Flash photography. Knowing when to use your flash. All of today's digital cameras have a built-in flash. How the flash works, though, is often up to you. In many cases, you have the option of turning on the flash or leaving it off. This symbol shows it on and now off. Let's take a look at some situations where you might want to use your flash. You can leave the flash on in automatic mode, and when the camera thinks it needs to use a flash, it will automatically turn it on, or in some situations, pop it up. There are situations when you might not want the flash to fire, say when you're taking a portrait and want to use natural light, or maybe a candid shot. Usually there'll be a button allowing you to turn it off. You'll see this on the LCD on the top of the camera, or on the main LCD on the rear. Alternately, you might want to use a flash to fill in the light of a portrait or even a still life shot. In that case, activating the flash is usually as simple as pressing the flash button, which will allow the pop-up flash, or by turning it on using another button. Check your manual for details on how the flash works and how you can turn it on or off. Here's a couple of examples of using the flash to fill in the available light. It's great when you're shooting a portrait with the sun or light behind the subject. Here's a portrait using the fill-in flash and one without it. You can also use it to add a little light to the shadows of a darker subject. Once again, here's an example. If you decide to purchase a separate, not on-camera flash, see your camera dealer. There's a wide selection of them, some made by your camera manufacturer and some made by other companies. Additional flash units will usually be triggered from the firing of your own flash, so it allows you to place that flash somewhere else to point at the subject from a different direction. Many cameras or computers come with their own simple software to allow you to edit your photos on your computer. While providing the basic tools, they sometimes are limited to what you can do. We recommend taking a look at an inexpensive software package called Photoshop Elements from Adobe. This program is the little brother to a program used by professional photographers and graphic artists called Photoshop CS2. Now here's a little secret. Photoshop Elements contains just about everything the average photographer will need to import, edit, and print your pictures. Let's take a look at a few simple operations in Photoshop Elements. After installing Adobe Photoshop Elements, an icon showing a little camera will appear on your desktop. Double-clicking on it will open the welcome screen. The first step is to click on View and Organize Photos. A window called the Organizer will open. You can import your pictures two ways, either click File and select Get Photos, or simply click on the camera icon in the Shortcuts bar. You can import from your camera or card reader, scanner, files and folders, mobile phone, or by searching. Importing from the camera or card reader. To open the Photo Downloader window, select the From Camera or Card Reader option under the camera icon on the Shortcuts bar. The first menu allows you to choose the source device of the images, such as a card reader, jump drive, camera, and more. Below is the Import Settings area. The images will be placed in a subfolder with the selection of shot date options or custom name. For example, the images taken on September 8th can be organized by that date or by a custom name. We'll use Salt Spring Island. The next menu allows you to rename each image within the subfolder, such as Boat or Bay. The Delete Options window is next. We strongly recommend you select the After Copying. Do not delete originals. Get in the habit of deleting your images yourself, and you won't lose any pictures by accident. Click Get Photos to finish the import process. Importing from files and folders. To open an existing image, select the From Files and Folders option under the camera icon on the Shortcuts bar. Open the folder, highlight the images you want to edit, and click Get Photos. Let's move on and open a picture in the Quick Fix workspace. Select the picture, go to Edit in the Shortcuts bar, and click on Go to Quick Fix. To edit more than one picture, just Control-click on all the pictures you want, and then select Edit, Go to Quick Fix. Your pictures will open automatically in the Quick Fix workspace. The photo bin at the bottom of the windows show the images you just selected. The usual menus run along the top. Clicking once on each menu item will open a sub-menu for File, Edit, Image, Enhance, Layer, Select, Filter, View, Window, and finally Help. Layer and Select submenus are not functional in the Quick Fix workspace. You'll still find nearly everything you need to create a great-looking picture. To get a better picture and to draw the attention on your subject, it's always a good idea to give your picture a little crop. It gives you the opportunity to resize and create a new composition. You'll find the Crop tool on the left side of the toolbox. The submenu offers the ability to restrict the ratio, width, and height of the cropped image. It's also really helpful if you plan to send your image to a professional photo finisher for printing. Without restrictions, you can crop the image any size and ratio you wish. Simply drag the mouse over the photo you want to crop. The area to be removed will be darkened. Once you're happy with the crop of the image, click the green check mark at the base of the selected area. This is one reason why you should always capture your pictures with the highest resolution and the best quality settings on your camera. When it comes to cropping, you don't want to miss those extra pixels when you need them. Keep the image setting at 300 pixels per inch for print and 72 pixels per inch for screen viewing on the cropped area. Let's take a look at what the right side of your screen can do for you. There are 4 main category palettes running vertically. Whenever you change something in any of these palettes, a red circle with a diagonal bar and a green check mark will appear on the top of the submenu bar. The computer is asking you to apply your changes or cancel them. The reset button to the left of the palettes area will revert the image to before any quick fix changes were applied. The 4 palettes are General Fixes. Under General Fixes, you can choose the Smart Fix option. This is an easy way to correct colors, improve shadow, and highlight details with a single click. You can control the amount or let the computer generate it automatically. Always keep an eye on your original. Underneath this, you'll find a button to automatically remove red eyes. Lighting. Under Lighting, you can automatically adjust the levels and the contrast. Auto Contrast will just affect the contrast without changing any colors. Or you can manually control the shadows, the highlights, and the midtones. Color. The Color menu lets you adjust the colors in your image. Auto lets you improve color and contrast of color automatically. The Saturation slider covers the range of making colors more vibrant to stripping the color out altogether and making a black and white. hue changes the colors in your image. In combination with the saturation slider and the temperature slider, you can easily create a sepia look. Temperature changes the color temperature of your image. Sometimes you'll have a picture taken under fluorescent light and they just look kind of cold. Adding a little warmth to the color temperature will change the tone for you. Tint makes all the color either more green or more magenta. With these options, you can create some pretty funny effects. Play with it and take a look at it. Sharpen. The last item is the Sharpen box. This slider will enhance the detail of the image. If the photo is a little blurry, you can sharpen it to make the images appear more crisp. Or try applying the auto sharpening. Be careful when sharpening, because sometimes too much sharpening will result in a kind of grainy looking image. Here's an example. In the middle, you'll see the original image. On the left, you'll see way too much sharpening, and you can see things stand out from the picture, while the other image shows the correct amount of sharpening. Printing and emailing. First on the agenda is printing. You can access the print option from any of the workspaces: Organizers, Quick Fix, and Full Edit. Always be sure your picture is selected in the photo bin. Go under File and select Print, or click on the print icon in the shortcuts bar. The print preview window will open. It shows you how the image will be oriented on the printed page. Under Print Size, you can select the size of the print. Use the pull-down menu to choose one of the preset sizes, or you can create your own size by typing in the dimensions in the Custom Size box. It'll automatically scale the image if it's too large for the printed page. If the image is smaller than the printed page, it will center the image. Under Position, you can change the default centering to reposition the image anywhere on the page. Remember, in both the Quick Fix and the Full Edit mode, you have a crop tool to crop to a preset size. Border lets you print a colored border around your picture. Check the Print Crop Marks box, especially if you're printing a very pale image. Double check all your settings before printing. Ask yourself, is this the right size? Is the orientation portrait or landscape? Clicking on Show More Options lets you add titles or change your color management. Now either click Print to print this one image, or select Print Multiple Photos, which will print all the selected pictures in the photo bin. Email. How about sending an email? Remember, every workspace in Adobe Photoshop Elements has a Share button with an email option in the submenu. You can attach multiple pictures. Click on Add, and a window will open offering several places to select images, including collections, and tagged files will open. Select the images you like and click Done. On the right of that window, you can choose the format between a PDF slideshow or individual JPEG attachments. Select the size and quality. I always choose the small size with a 640 by 480 pixel size. It makes a great viewing screen size. There are still some people out there with slow internet connections, so don't send 4 megabyte double screen size pictures straight from your memory card. Always screen your pictures through a program like Photoshop to compress and resize them before attaching them to an email. For more detailed images being sent to a recipient with a high-speed internet connection, set the JPEG quality to 8 or 9. Pressing Next will show the path where the pictures are saved. Only Outlook Express will automatically attach the pictures to emails if it was set up to do so initially in the startup preferences. I'm not using Outlook on my computer, so I have to save the pictures first and get them later when I write my mail. If you're using Outlook, go in the Organizer and under Edit Preference Sharing. Click under Email Client Outlook Express. The next time you're saving your pictures for the web, it'll automatically generate the pictures in a new email. Photoshop Elements is a really great program to get your picture the way you like them. We recommend you spend a little time with it and experiment with all the tools, filters, and functions. You can download a complimentary copy of Photoshop Elements 5 with a 30-day trial from the nice folks at Adobe, visiting their website at www.adobe.com. We've just produced a DVD about this, and we were amazed at the power this program offers everyday photographers. And you can pick up our DVD at the camera dealer you bought this DVD from. So check it out You'll be amazed at all the power of the program, and you'll have a lot of fun. Archiving. Let's take a look at archiving your images. You'd be amazed at how many people keep their photos on their memory card for months before transferring them to your hard drive. It's a risky idea at best. Here's what we want you to do. Make a habit of transferring your files to your computer's hard drive after every shooting session. Place them in a folder and name the folder something pertinent to the day or the subject. Now you have a copy on the hard drive and on the memory card. So we have a backup. Well, okay, that's good, but since we recommend you format the memory card in the camera after each time you've transferred your photos to your computer, you'll soon be left with only one copy on your hard drive, which, trust me, can fail without any notice. So let's take a look at how we can improve upon our picture's safety. Take a visit back to your local dealer. He can help you in two different ways. First, you can have the files on your memory card printed, just as you would have when you were shooting with film. Paper copies of your photos are great in photo albums, used in scrapbooks, and to share with friends and families, and they are one of the #1 ways of archiving your photos. The next thing your dealer can do for you is to sell you some gold CD-ROMs or DVD-ROMs. These products can hold between 700 megabytes and 4.7 gigabytes of data, which translates into thousands of pictures. Now, why gold instead of the ones that you can pick up anywhere for next to nothing? Well, these discs are specially designed and manufactured with gold to provide up to 300 years of use. They are archive-grade discs and will serve you and the great-great-great-granddaughter you have for decades to come. They'll cost a little more than the others, but they'll do the job. Your local camera store can also transfer these to an archive-grade disc for you, so you might want to do that too. So now you have a copy on your hard drive, which you can work on, and an original of the file protected on an archive-grade CD or DVD. Heck, they're cheap enough, you might want to have a copy to store off-site in case of fire or theft too. So maybe you want to make 2 copies. I don't know about you folks, but I feel a lot better now that my pictures are protected. Okay, what are you going to do with your pictures now that you've taken them? We've shown you how to edit and improve them in Photoshop Elements, and we've even shown you how to use a home printer. But we have one last suggestion. Take your pictures to your camera dealer for expert photo finishing. They've spent tens of thousands of dollars to make sure that you get the best quality prints at very, very reasonable prices. And there's no messy, expensive ink. Also, your photo finisher can make prints that are much larger and on archive-grade paper and using archive-grade ink. In short, we do some of our stuff at home, but if the image really matters to us, it's going to our dealer for the best in printing. Lenses, filters, and accessories. Now that you have a new camera, you might be thinking about some accessories. Like you, we're always on the lookout for things that will make our job of taking pictures better, easier, and a lot more fun. Over the next few moments, we're going to show you some of the most popular accessories and some that have caught our eye. One of the most common questions on some of the photography forums is, what lens should I buy next? Whether you have a compact digital camera or one of the new digital SLR cameras, there are some options for you. Your camera may come with a lens, but chances are you're already thinking about that next one. If your type of photography leans toward wildlife, nature, or sports photography, nothing beats a telephoto zoom lens. Here's an image taken with a 50mm lens. Now, here's the same image taken at 200mm. It's a huge difference. Here's a selection of images from various different focal lengths so you can see what each one can do. Telephoto lenses are great at getting you in close when your feet can't do the job for you. You can even buy attachment lenses for some compact digital cameras. One of the lenses we've found to be pretty good and might be considered a good lens for a do-it-all is the Sigma 18-200. The model number is AF18200DC. With this lens in your camera bag, you're ready for anything. We found it to be sharp and it had great contrast. For a little more reach, you might want to consider the Sigma 70-300. It's called the AF70-300DG, and it'll get you a little closer, but you won't have the wide angle abilities. If your camera came with the typical kit lens, you have something to handle wide angle, but it only goes to about 55 millimeters. Sigma has a great 55 to 200 millimeter lens called the AF55-200DC. It takes off where your manufacturer's lens finishes off. Any of these lenses would make a great second lens. The other extreme is wide-angle photography. If you like taking landscapes and cityscapes, a wide angle might be for you. Wide angles can be as wide as 12 millimeters and will make shooting wide-angle shots of cities and buildings fun and easy. Check your local dealer for information on what's available for your camera. Once again, there are attachments for some compact digital cameras too. Both wide-angle and telephoto is available. Check with your dealer. Another tool we recommend for your digital camera is the addition of a filter. One of the most common and important filters you can add is called a UV filter. This doesn't change the picture at all. It removes harmful ultraviolet light, but more importantly, it can help protect your expensive camera from having a scratched lens. UV filters come in many different sizes, and if your camera does not have a retractable lens, like this one, you can use a filter. Another filter we recommend is a polarizing filter. A polarizing filter reduces the glare and also increases the intensity of blue and green light. Here's an example. Rotating the polarizing filter, we were able to remove the glare from the window on this car and capture a picture of the driver. It works with water and other sources of glare too. You can also use it when you want to increase the intensity of the sky. Here's an example of a landscape using a polarizing filter and one without. The extra intensity makes the photo in our opinion. When it comes to filters, we recommend Tiffen, one of the world's leading manufacturers. You'll find a wide range of filters to choose from, and some with interesting special effects. We've talked a little bit about night photography and slow speed photography. To do this properly, you'll require a tripod. Tripods come in a variety of sizes and, more importantly, weights. Too often, a photographer buys an inexpensive tripod that is not sturdy enough to hold the camera, and as a result, it falls over and the camera is damaged. We recommend you buy a little more tripod than is necessary for the camera you have today. It'll hold your camera steady, and it'll allow you to grow with it. Another manufacturer to check out while you're selecting a tripod is Slik. Slik makes a wide range of tripods, from ones that'll literally fit in your pocket to huge industrial models for professionals. Now, if you want the ultimate gift for that special person on your list, take a look at this treasure blanket. You get to take any picture you have and have it transferred to this blanket in this colorful pattern. It's going to be great for Christmas or birthdays or Mother's Day, Father's Day, or Grandma and Grandpa's Day. If your camera uses proprietary batteries, ones made by the manufacturer, you should still consider adding another battery. You can save money and still get all the same great power by buying another manufacturer's battery. These ones, by Optex, offer the same ratings as the manufacturer's battery, but at a substantial savings. We've also used their battery chargers when we needed or wanted to have more than one charging station. Once again, save some money. If your camera uses regular batteries, you'll quickly find out that all batteries are not created equal. You'll save money buying cheap AA and AAA batteries, but believe me, when you're waiting several seconds between shots and can only take a few shots on the batteries, you'll wish you'd have purchased the best. Energizer lithium batteries will allow you to take more pictures and quicker than any of the other brands we've used. They're worth every penny and will keep you shooting longer. Check the batteries out at your dealer. They're well worth it. Now that you have all this stuff, you'll need a place to put it. We recommend you consider the purchase of a camera bag. These are specially designed bags that will hold your camera and a few accessories. They come in a wide range of sizes and colors, and you can select bags that are shoulder bags or can fit on your belt. We've used Lowepro camera bags for years and have found they can stand up to all types of weather and conditions. Here's a cool way of sharing your photos with family and friends. Have you ever considered looking at a digital picture frame? They come in a variety of sizes and will display your photos, videos. They'll even play music. They make a great gift, and remember, you can change the pictures anytime you like. We found this one at our local camera store and we think it's just great. Thanks for taking the time and viewing this DVD. We hope it was helpful and will assist you in getting the most out of your digital camera. We have a tremendous number of helpful DVDs available to provide you with specific assistance with your camera. If you have any questions or comments, please visit our website at www.jumpstartguides.com. We're constantly coming up with new products, and we want you to suggest DVDs that you like to see. Well, now you're a better photographer. Now go take some pictures.